Welcome to Jackie's Craft Table. Hi, everyone. Welcome. So here is my 10 cards, 1 kit for Simon Says Stamp for the month of July. And it is just a fabulous kit. I was so excited to get this. Let's dig right into it and see what it includes. These are some Simon Says Stamp sequins, and they're called Summer Gold. Once my 10 cards are done, I think I only have like 5 of these left. I would definitely buy more. This is a dull pink envelope. And this was really fun to use. I would definitely order more of these. It's a sheet of 4x6 Sizzix white foam adhesive. And this lasted me for several cards. I got a lot of use out of this one sheet. These are Amy Tangerine puffy stickers. And I didn't use these on any of my cards. They're just too small. Couldn't think of anything to do with them, so I'll just give them to my kids. This sheet of glitter cardstock is beautiful, and it doesn't come off on your fingers. These are double-sided sheets of Bella Carta Summer Splash 6x6 papers. I have a hard time with double-sided papers because I never know which side to use, and these are all so cute. I'm going to show you each one. They're just very summery and retro-y and fun. They have a nice thickness to them as well. They're very heavyweight. Love the waves on that one. I really love this flamingo one, but I didn't end up using it for this set of cards. This one's my favorite. It just looks so bright and pretty. Yeah, it's very difficult to choose which side to use. They're all so fabulous. This is an Amy Tangerine Sunshine and Good Times sticker book. These are really fun stickers because they're clear. And so you don't see the edges when you put them on your paper. I didn't get through even half of all of these stickers. There's so many. And these look best on white cardstock. I tried some of them on my colored cardstock, and they kind of got lost. A lot of these you can use for your planners. Very summery and fun stickers. This stamp set is called One Cool Pineapple, and it's a very large set, and I love the giant sentiments in it. The kit included a wafer die for the flamingo. You can use that alone or with the stamp. These are pre-scored card bases, and there are 3 of them. And I really liked the feel of this paper. It wasn't like normal cardstock. It was very silky feeling. I always love to have pre-scored card bases. They just make life easier. Here's the sheet of examples. So many cute cards that they put together with this kit. And then they give you some sheets of colored cardstock. That's Island Blue, Bright Yellow, Dull Pink, and Green Leaf. These are so bright. I don't think I would have chosen these, but I really had fun playing with them. So for my first card, I'm going to start out with the One Cool Pineapple stamp. I'm using my stamping platform so that I can stamp out this pineapple 2 more times. I want to stamp them in a row, and I wanted it to be very even, so that's why I chose to use the platform. So I stamp it here and make sure the impression is nice and crisp. I'm using some Simon Says Stamp Extreme Black ink. I do stamp that up twice, and then I'm going to just pull off the sentiment, and then I can slide my card panel over. And then I'm going to stamp another pineapple right next to it. I want to stamp it really close. I stamped it about 1.25 inches away from the other pineapple. And so now I just got to move it over 2.5 inches, and it will be perfectly aligned with the other pineapples. I'm learning that sometimes you don't have to re-ink your stamp. If you just press it down a little bit harder, more ink will come off of it. So there's a little tip for you. And I'm going to color these pineapples all the same. I want I don't know, what are they called, the crowns of the pineapple. I want them to be kind of a bluish green. So I'm using BG53 and BG57. To add a little bit of a yellow highlight, I pulled out my Y08 just for the tips of those pineapples. For the pineapple, I started out with Y26, and then I came in with Y08 again. And then for the lightest parts, I'm using Y11. I thought it needed a little more dimension, so I pulled out an E57, which is pretty dark. And this sure made it pop. I was glad that I added more dark Copic markers to these pineapples. I'm using one of my frame die cuts to cut out this panel. And I'm going to pull out the frame. This craft pick is new to my craft room. And it's one of those tools that I just don't know what I did without it before this. I just use it so much. So I mounted this panel with a piece of black cardstock. And I used the bright yellow cardstock that came in this kit for my card base. I want to add a little bit of dimension to this frame. So I cut out several of these frames and I'm going to glue them together. I just happen to have a black frame in my stash, so I'm just using that. There's no rhyme or reason why I chose the black for the bottom. And then I'm going to glue my top frame onto that. That adds a nice weight to the frame. I use a lot of liquid adhesive lately for my cards. I find it easier to put them together this way because it gives you a little bit of wiggle room so that they're perfectly aligned. I called the Gina K store in Wisconsin and they mailed some out to me. And they came without the precision tips, and that's very necessary for card making to get the thin lines. And I called them back and asked them if they couldn't send me the tips, and they just ended up sending me 2 brand new tubes. So that was very nice of them. It's a wonderful store. I'm going to add little sunglasses to my middle pineapple, and I popped that up with some foam tape. Now I'm going to use some of these pretty sequins to decorate the front of my card panel. They just matched perfectly. Love these sequins. To add even more detail to this card, I pull out my crystal glaze. And I'm going to put that over the sunglasses. And once this dries, it just looks so cute. And I should have done this before decorating the inside, but so I have to be kind of careful here. But I'm going to use one of the pretty stickers that says "for sure" and a cute little golden heart. And that's the inside completed. Very easy. Now on to card number 2. And I'm going to do yet another pineapple card. I just love the pineapple. I think it's my favorite image in this set. I'm going to stamp the sentiment again right onto the pattern paper. It's one of those sentiments that has enough heft to it that you can stamp right over the pattern. I do stamp it up a few times just to get a nice, crisp, dark impression. I'm using a bit of black fun foam so that I can pop up this panel onto my white card base. And this is one of the white card bases from the kit. This was a really easy card to put together. And I'm going to adhere that to my card base. And for the pineapple, I stamped out the glasses with some pink ink. I just thought that looked cute. And then I'm going to use an action wobbler behind this pineapple. I have the little mini action wobblers, and that was just the perfect size for this. So you just peel off the release paper, attach it to your image, and then take the release paper off the other side and then just press it down where you want it. And oh, that looks so cute. That's going to be a fun card to send out to somebody. The inside, I'm just using the leftover scraps from that pattern paper. I'm going to add a little fruit drink sticker next to it. And this pattern paper was perfect for this card because it has little pineapples all over it. For card number 3, I'm going to stamp the sentiment onto a piece of white cardstock. And I had to remind myself to use colored inks sometimes instead of just my regular black that I use all the time. Sorry if my voice sounds a little funny here and there. My allergies are going crazy this summer. So the ink I used is called Poppy Red from MFT, and I'm going to stamp the watermelon right in the center of my card panel. I like how the sentiments kind of curve around the images. I'm going to stamp some more melons around it using some bamboo leaves from Memento. I'm creating a fun little geometric pattern with these triangular watermelon pieces. The only one I'm going to color in is the center one. And this is a piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock, and that's good to use when you're going to use your zig markers. So that's why I chose that. I stamped these melons right off of the edge of the paper. I'm just using a very few zig markers. This is just going to be easy, fun coloring. I'm pulling out the red color with my water brush, and this just kind of turns it into a softer reddish pink. And then I'm going to add a little bit of a darker green at the edges of this melon. And I'm done with that coloring. And I decide to continue the pattern above it. So I'm just adding a few more melons up at the top. I decide to cut down this panel even more because I'm going to use this cute dotted red pattern paper, and I want it to show more behind this watermelon panel. I'm using the green leaf cardstock as my card base, and I'm going to glue the pattern paper right onto that. It's a little bit smaller than my card base because I like the green to show through, and I cut off some of the foam adhesive to pop up this watermelon panel. On the inside of my card, I'm going to use some more dotted paper. While that is drying, I'm going to stamp a few more watermelons on the inside of my card using the bamboo leaves again. To get it more even, I should have stamped the first melon in the middle of the card and then have done the edges. Now I can cut off the excess. I'm adding a few enamel dots to decorate the card. And then I decide to go in with some gel pens to brighten up the seeds on this one watermelon. And that completes this card. Okay, now for my very favorite piece of pattern paper. And I thought I had to use the sunshine with this piece of paper. I'm adding a piece of white cardstock at an angle across this pattern paper. I'm just using my packaging there so I don't get glue on my poor mat, craft mat. It's getting so beat up. And then I can cut off the excess. I did order the Tim Holtz glass mat, and that was last April. I'm just waiting to get my hands on that. I can't wait for that. Okay, now for the sentiment and the first little sunshine. It's nice when you can stamp things at the same time. And as I said before, these stamps are so nice, you can just stamp right over the pattern paper. And then for the inside of the sun, there's a little stamp for that. I'm just using some dandelion Memento ink. Stamp that up twice. And then I'm going to shift my sunshine and stamp it either side of my first sun. I'm going to use the same dandelion ink to stamp the insides of the other two. I think I would use two other tones of yellow or orange, and I think that would have been cute on this card. I wasn't thinking of that at the time. Now I'm using another bright yellow card base. I wish I had had more of this yellow because I think that was my favorite piece of cardstock out of this kit. I'm using the sticker that says Sunshine on My Mind with another little heart. I'm going to glue some strips of the leftover scrap paper from this piece of pattern paper. Didn't want to waste any of this. Once that's dry enough to stop wiggling, I cut off the excess. And then I do end up stamping the sunshine, just the outline of it, one more time with the dandelion ink. I think I use sequins on almost every single card. They just add a lot of brightness and fun to your cards. And here's a look at the inside again. On card number 5, I'm using another of my favorite of the pattern paper from this kit. And I'm using an oval frame die, but I'm not going to use the frame. These are the only oval dies I have, but they work out just fine. And I'm going to stamp the sentiment on the pattern paper again with black ink. I just like the look of black ink for my sentiments as opposed to a color. I just think it looks really sharp and nice. I get tired of using the magnets on my stamp positioners, so sometimes I'll just put those aside and just make sure I snug it up on the corner before I stamp. I also cut out an oval for my cactus. This is a piece of Neenah Solar White 80-pound cardstock. I'm going to color in this little cactus with some Copic markers. Here's my poor battered Copic marker chart. I keep this nearby always. I use it a lot to pick out what colors I want to use. I'm trying to find a green that goes with this pattern paper. I'm using YG17 for my shadows, and then a YG13 for the lighter colors on my cactus. This is going to be very easy coloring. I'm just going back and forth with these two colors. I'm using an E07 and an E04. I'm trying to make the pot look kind of like terracotta. And then I'm adding a little shadow under my cactus. Now I can glue this pattern paper onto my green card base. I'm using some more foam to pop up my cactus piece. Then I'm just going to center that right in the oval. And I like how the green shows through on the oval. I'm going to use the oval frame for the inside of my card. And a cute cactus sticker from this sticker book. And that completes card number 5. On card number 6, it's time to use the fish stamp from this set. And I'm stamping it onto a little die-cut circle. I'm stamping up the fish as well as a few of the bubbles. And then I'm using the pineapple, just the crown of this pineapple, to stamp some underwater foliage, or seaweed, I don't know what you'd call it. And you'd never know that that was connected to a pineapple. This is another piece of 80-pound Neenah Solar White cardstock. This is going to be a little goldfish, so I'm using 3 different oranges to color him in. And then I'm just coloring in the foliage under him really quickly. My poor B000 Copic marker is in dire need of a refill, but I managed to scrape some out. And then I'm using my Wink of Stella to add some shine and sparkle to my goldfish. This is the same pen that I've had for 2 years, and I just refilled it with water, and there's a lot of sparkle in it left over. I used 2 circle dies to create a circle frame for this little fish. I taped them together and ran them through my Sizzix Big Shot machine, and it just made the perfect little frame. I'm going to glue on a piece of acetate. I'm going to turn this card into a shaker card with the sequins that came in this kit. I'm being careful not to get any of the glue onto the acetate where it shows. I taped down the piece of pattern paper just so I could get the placement of my fish centered on my card where I want it, because I'm going to pop up this pattern paper with some foam tape. And I wanted to stamp out the sentiment before I did this. It makes life much easier. And this is the first mistake I make on this card. So I decided to be brave and stamp it up with some blue ink, and I'm just testing the color there. It looks pretty close. So I'm using blue ribbon dye ink from Ranger. And I stamped that down the first time, and it doesn't stamp out dark enough. So I ink it up again. And as you can see, I'm not using my magnet and I didn't snug it up in the corner. So it doesn't stamp out perfectly. And it looks a little out of focus because of that. So I decide that I'm going to try to stamp it again with black ink and hope that the blue will just look like a drop shadow. And that works out pretty good. I didn't want to waste this cute pattern paper. So I just carry on. It's not too bad. I'm using a piece of the Island Blue cardstock, and I'm going to put that right onto my card base. I'm using some foam tape from my own stash to prop up this panel. And I'm using almost all of my summer gold sequins for this shaker card. And now I can just align this panel over it. Once that's in place, I'm going to glue on my frame. And I'm using more Gina K Connect glue for that. I hold that in place with my fingers until it adheres. And now I'm going to decorate the inside of my card. And I stamped this little fish out with some more blue ribbon ink. And I'm using up another piece of the scrap paper. And my shaker is done. I think the gold sequins look really cute in the window of this card. For the next card, I'm going to use the little flamingo and the die that came in this kit. And I stamped it out onto some white cardstock, and I die cut that. And it doesn't leave a white border around it. I'm going to color him in with a few colored pencils, just a quick coloring. I'm putting down a light shade of pink, and then a red to add some shadows. I'm giving him a little black beak. I'm going to be putting some sunglasses on this little guy, and I stamped them out with some yellow. I'm using a black marker to go around these glasses that I fussy cut. It just helps them to pop a little more when I put them on my bird. And I really loved this pattern paper as well. And I'm going to use the sentiment that says, "You bring the sunshine." And that's kind of why I stamped his glasses in yellow. I'm using the dull pink cardstock for my card base. And I did cut out a little bit. And I die cut a piece of it to put behind my bird. I'm gluing my pattern paper flat onto my card base. I'm gluing my flamingo flat onto the rectangle of pink paper. And I'm going to try and align the glasses just right over his eye so you don't see his eye. It looks better that way. And I'm using more of the craft foam to pop up this little rectangle. This stuff is so sticky. I just love it. I'm going to have to get more. And of course, a few more sequins. And I do make a little mistake on this card. I'm going to put some gel glaze on the glasses, and I drop a little bit of it on this rectangle of dull pink cardstock. So I hide it right there by his beak with one of the sequins. The sequin doesn't look the best there, but it works. It hides the oopsie. And that completes this card. I wanted to use the sunshine stamp again. I'm going to stamp out the solid image with 3 different colors of Simon Says Stamp ink, all in the orangey, yellowy family. And I'm just randomly stamping them across this panel. I'm not worried that they don't stamp out perfectly because I kind of like the distressed look of them. And these colors go well together. And now I'm going to stamp the sunshine, and I'm going to stamp it kind of wonky so it's not perfectly aligned with the inside stamp. And this just gives it a fun, playful look. I'm using the 2 heart stamps from this set, and I'm just randomly stamping them around the sunshines. I like using the black ink for this. It just looks cute. I decided to cut down this panel with a faux stitched die. The sentiment I'm going to heat emboss onto a piece of black cardstock. I'm using my Versamark ink to stamp that up a couple of times, and now I can pour on my white embossing powder. I decided to pour on a little bit more because it was looking kind of bare, like it needed more white on it. I pulled out my heat tool to melt this embossing powder. I'm being careful not to warp my card so I don't put it on the paper for too long. And I'm using up the last of my Sizzix foam tape to prop up this panel. The banner I'm just going to tape down flat. And then where it hangs off the sunshine panel, I'm going to put two little squares, two foam squares under that to hold it up. And I'm peeling off the release paper before I do this. And that just works perfectly. And then I can cut off the overhang. On the inside, I'm just going to keep it really simple. I'm just using more black ink to stamp out these sunshines along the bottom. I did add a few leftover sequins, and that completes this card. Card number 9 is going to be very simple, but very fun and satisfying to do. I pulled out a piece of off-white cardstock from Gina K. I find that the stickers look best on lighter colored cardstock. I'm going to use up most of my butterfly stickers. They're so pretty with the gold foiling on them. And I am just randomly placing these across the panel. You could add these stickers onto a piece of white cardstock and then fussy cut them out, but I really don't like fussy cutting, and I didn't think they looked too bad on this piece of off-white cardstock. And I'm making them go off the side of the cardstock in some places. And then I can just fold it over. Fold over their little wings. And that's a very easy card to create. So if you're looking for a really fast card, stickers are the way to go. I did cut out this cardstock with a faux stitch die that measures 5.5 by 4.25. I'm using more of the gold foil hearts around the butterflies to complete this pattern, to add a little extra something to it. And then I'm going to glue that down onto the card base. I used up the card bases that came in this kit pretty quickly, so this is a card base from my own stash. I'm going to use up 3 more stickers for the inside of the card. And a heart, and that is done. And I just think it turns out really cute and charming. This 10 cards 1 kit video wouldn't be complete without using the pink glitter cardstock. It's so pretty. So I'm going to cut out the flamingo using the die that came with the kit. But first I'm going to stamp out my sentiment onto another piece of pattern paper. This piece of paper reminded me of water flowing up onto the beach. So I'm going to have my flamingo look like he's standing in the water. I adhered a piece of dull pink cardstock onto my card base. Now I'm adding the pattern paper. I'm going to cut out the flamingo with some black fun foam so that I can prop him up a little bit. And this fun foam has adhesive on the back, so I'm just pulling off the release paper. I'm going to put the fun foam right onto the card. And then I can glue on the glitter paper. And I like the black showing underneath that and through the sides. It looks really cute. A few enamel dots adds a little bit of brightness to it. This was a super fast card to put together. And for the inside, I had to use another piece of the glitter cardstock just along the edge. And then once that dries, I'm just going to cut off the excess. I think my favorite part of this card was the pink glitter cardstock. It's just so gorgeous. This is just an extra card to show you what not to do. So I'm using the stickers on a piece of the Island Blue cardstock, and they just don't show up behind this beautiful, or in front of this beautiful cardstock. It turns out to be an okay card. I'm cutting up another piece of the pattern paper, the striped pattern paper, and I'm going to glue them onto my card panel. I'm going to glue them on diagonally onto my card panel. And it would have turned out really cute, I think, if the stickers didn't look so faded and washed out on this blue paper. But give this one a try if you want, but just make sure to use like a piece of white cardstock or a light colored piece of cardstock. The stickers are just beautiful. So this is going to be a desperation card, one that I use when I'm out of all of my other favorites. I guess you can't knock them all out of the park, right? And there's a lot of excess to cut off on this card. But I'm just going to keep trucking, and I'm going to attach this to one of my white card bases that came in this kit. I'm sorry to have wasted it, but there you go. I do try to salvage it or to brighten it up with a few Nouveau white dots. And I just apply these across the panel. It does brighten it up a little bit. And I also add a sticker on the inside of the card. Thank you so much for watching and thumbs upping and all your lovely comments. I hope you enjoyed this card video. I hope that it inspires you with ideas of what to do with your card kits or with just cards in general if you didn't get the kit. Have a wonderful day. Bye.